Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I am featuring two non-turreted Tier 10 Soviet tank destroyers that play the assault tank destroyer role exceptionally well. And those two tank destroyers are the Object 263 and the Object 268 version 4. Both of these Tier 10 tank destroyers feature lots of lovely armour that you can use to ricochet, move forward and break through the enemy lines, and they both have really nice guns, different in their statistics, but hard-hitting and very powerful guns with pretty good penetration, especially on the Object 268 version 4. So coming up first, I have a replay in the Object 263, and in the second gameplay it's a replay in the Object 268 version 4, and hopefully these replays demonstrate how well these tanks play the assault tank destroyer role going forward, playing kind of like a pseudo heavy tank destroyer hybrid role, and yeah, getting forward, blocking shots, using your gun to push back the enemy and change the course of the battle. So in both of these replays, in terms of my equipment and commander setup, I run the same setup. So on my equipment I run advanced loader, advanced powertrain and traction system, and with my commander I run 6th sense, born leader, rapid loading, steady aim, rapid aim, snapshot, clutch braking, track mechanic and situational awareness. And you'll notice that I run both pieces of mobility equipment available to you in the World War II game mode on these tanks, and that's basically because these are non-turreted tanks. They have a limited gun traverse, they are extremely susceptible to being tracked and flanked and being circled by fast moving lights, mediums and even some heavy tanks. So I want to try and get the traverse speed, or the whole traverse of these tanks, up as good as possible, so I'm able to keep up with tanks that try to circle me. And I use track mechanic as a commander skill to try and improve my ability to repair my tracks and keep them on, not get tracked and not get flanked, because that is the downfall of these tanks. The rear armour of both of these tanks is about 45 to 50 millimeters of armour, so if you get behind one of these tanks you'll be able to penetrate it with HE no problem. In terms of view range, I've pushed up a little bit with the situational awareness on my commander skills, but I find that playing this aggressive role, as I have tried to do with these tanks, then the view range is just good enough as my equipment and commander setup should hopefully demonstrate in these games. And just a final note on the equipment and commander setup, I run the clutch braking skill, which means that I am able to traverse my hull a lot better in both of these tanks. So first up, you're seeing a replay here on Prokhorovka in the Object 263, and if you've played Prokhorovka, I'm sure many of you have multiple times, you will notice that there is often a stalemate down this one line, and I'm going to try and use the fantastic 130mm gun of the Object 263 to try and go through this flank, try and push forward, deflect some shots with my armour, and then push forward with the reasonable mobility that the Object 263 has, that's been bolstered by the equipment and commander setup that I have chosen to use. So the Object 263 then has 2000 hit points, which feels quite low at Tier 10, however you do have some pretty decent armour, which I'll discuss with you in just a second. With my equipment and commander setup you have a 454 meters view range, which I feel is just enough. In terms of my mobility, this is with the mobility equipment. I can now go 63.5 kilometers an hour forwards, 23.1 kilometers an hour backwards. My power to weight is 18.37, which isn't too bad at all for a non-turreted tank destroyer with such good armour, and my hull traverse is 37.8 degrees, so I'm able to keep up pretty well with the tanks that are trying to flank me. The Object 263 has a 130mm gun that fires AP as standard, APCR as premium and HE as its third round. So the penetration on the AP is 290mm, which is really nice, and will go through pretty much everything you are going to come across. And if you want to boost that up even more by 40mm, you can choose to fire the APCR rounds, I should say, sorry, at 330mm of penetration, and the HE rounds have 75mm of penetration. So what kind of alpha damage does this 130mm gun put out? Well, with its standard and premium rounds it's 550 alpha damage, and with its HE it's 750 alpha damage if you are able to penetrate that 75mm. The shell velocity is actually pretty decent on these pretty big caliber rounds at 1000 meters a second on the AP and HE, and 1250 meters a second on the APCR. With my commander and equipment setup, you'll expect to have an aim time of 2.3 seconds, an accuracy of 0.26, and 4021 DPM, so pretty damn good DPM, lovely penetration, good shell velocity. The only downside is the 4 degrees of gun pressure, meaning that it's incredibly hard sometimes to use this tank on ridgelines. So this is kind of the perfect environment for the Object 263 here, on pretty flat ground here on the one line on Prokhorovka, and now I'm going to try and sense a weakness in the enemy defences and just edge forward ever so slightly, and then I'm going to basically try and be a battering ram for the rest of the game. In terms of the armour and how effective it is on the Object 263, you have a 150mm lower plate, which is pretty much buttered by anything that you were going to come across apart from some tier 8 tanks. The superstructure and upper plate is 250mm of base armour, but when angled at about a 45-degree angle, that ranges from anywhere between 370 to 500mm of effective armour. You need about 330mm of penetration to go through the superstructure when it's not angled and it's looking directly at you, and about 360mm plus of effective penetration when using its gun depression, which is 4 degrees. So this is using its gun depression over a sort of small ridge. You're going to need sort of 360 plus penetration to go through it, and yeah, you're going to have to be basically a top tier tank destroyer to be able to go through that, no problem. So here on Prokhorovka we've already picked up 5140 damage in the opening 7 minutes of this battle with the pretty nice DPM that the Object 263 has. We've blocked 1210 damage and got 1432 assistance, and I'm sort of playing different roles with the Object 263, but I decided to play it like I've been playing the Object 268 version 4, utilising the armour, going forward, making the most of my 2000 hit points, trying to bounce some shells, put the enemy into reverse, into panic mode, and then I'm going for that assault gameplay, going straight at the enemy, leading the charge, spotting for my team, and yeah, making that push through this line. This can be a bit of a stalemate on Prokhorovka, like I've mentioned earlier in this gameplay. Sometimes you're stuck in that sort of A1, B1 location, and it's so frustrating, and I'm taking the opportunity here where there isn't any artillery on either team to push forward. If artillery was in play, I might be a little bit more passive, but I'll still be playing a kind of assault gameplay mode, if you will. And as you can see here, I'm just advancing forward, wiggling my tank, trying to make the enemies miss my lower plate. I'm utilising dead wrecks and all things like that in ridgelines to try and make the enemy shoot my superstructure when it is angled at around 45 degrees, and I'm just going forward, pushing the tempo, and I'm going to try and yeah, use my tank as a bit of a battering ram there on the griller. And he gets taken out by the T95, which is behind me. And as you can see, we've pushed through this flank, we've boosted our damage to a pretty nice total, and this 130mm cannon is proving really effective. The DPM is really nice for such a high caliber round, and it feels like a really nice sweet spot between penetration and DPM, and you'll see the differences between this and the Object 268 version 4 in the second gameplay of today's video. But I wanted to put this one up there just to show you how effective you can play it aggressively in a tank destroyer. You don't have to sit back and snipe. It can work in pretty much any tank, but sometimes you do have to be the one going forward. You have the armour, and if you try and use it wisely, use it effectively, you can try and make the most of it and have some pretty damn good games with these tanks. So the last tank remaining is this 50 TP. We're going to try and aim in as much as possible. We low roll there by 60 alpha damage, but we do take our damage total to 6,527 with 1,625 assistance and 1,210 blocks. So we're going to see if we can push that up just a little bit more, getting a kill on this 50 TP. Going to come over the ridgeline, auto-aim down on the upper hole, and get the final kill of the round and have a nice little screenshot there. So in that game with the Object 263, we finish in second place, I believe. There we get the Mastery Badge, we get 4 kills, 6.7k direct damage, 1625 assistance and 1210 blocked, making a little bit of a profit as well. So we're going to head on now into the second replay, which is in the Object 268 version 4. So you're joining me here on Fisherman's Bay in the Object 268 version 4. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Object 268 version 4 statistics, and then I'll talk to you about how I'm playing on Fisherman's Bay and how I try and play the Assault Tank Destroyer mode with this tank on this map. So like the Object 263 it has 2000 hit points, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you can make it work with the pretty good armour that the Object 268 version 4 has. In terms of its view range with my commander and equipment setup, I now have a 430.7 meters view range, which is more than adequate to play this Assault Tank Destroyer role. The mobility equipment has pushed my top speed forwards to 46.2 kilometers an hour and backwards to 30.79 kilometers an hour. The power to weight is really lacking at 11.9, and you can see why I've chosen to use both pieces of mobility equipment and the clutch braking. The whole traverse is 26.02 degrees a second, so slower than the Object 263, but if you catch them trying to flank you at sort of mid distances, you should be alright and get your gun round on time. In terms of the gun then, this has a bigger caliber gun than the Object 263. The Object 268 version 4 has a 152mm gun that deals 650 alpha damage on its standard and its premium rounds, and 840 alpha damage on its HE rounds. It has really nice penetration at 293mm on the standard AP rounds, 360mm of penetration on those lovely heat rounds, so you can go through even the toughest of armour if you just press the A button and go to your heat rounds, and the HE has pretty decent penetration at 90mm. In terms of the shell velocity, it's 960 meters a second, so a little bit slower than the Object 263, but if you get used to the lead, it doesn't feel too slow at all, as we get a blind kill there on a move-in artillery at the back of the map, which is always really nice. So in terms of gun handling then, it's actually not too bad for a larger caliber gun. I have a 2.3 second aim time with my commander and equipment setup. The accuracy is a little bit derpy at 0.34, but it sort of works when you're playing up close and personal like I'm doing in this replay. The DPM is lacking in comparison to the Object 263 with 3023 DPM, but it does have 1 degree extra of gun depression at 5 degrees of gun depression. In terms of the armour then, and this is the biggest sort of thing about the Object 268 version 4 and the reason why it has been nerfed in comparison to the PC version, which has incredible mobility and incredible armour. The lower plate of this tank is 300mm of base thickness, and there's only a little bar, a little strip at the bottom of this which is 85mm, and that's the part on the lower plate that you want to hit. And if you hit, the large majority of the lower plate is 300mm, and it's just going to be baiting you into shooting it. And yeah, when angled, that goes up to around 400mm of effective armour. So if you're coming around a corner, do not shoot this thing's lower plate, and if you're playing it, try and bait them into shooting your lower plate. One good weak point is the cupolas. There's one on the left and right, but the one on the left, as if you were facing this tank with the bar across it, is the easiest to hit because it's taller at 230mm of armour. The upper plate is 100mm of base thickness, but when you're looking at it and when you're angling, it's 330mm of effective armour. The superstructure and the gun cheeks is 260mm of base armour, but when angled at a 45 degree angle, it is 330mm of effective armour. So here you can see we went to the middle at the start of the battle into that little village in the centre, spotted out towards the south of the map, just get our gun working. We've pushed forward when we spotted a target coming up, used our armour to try and deflect shots off of our cheeks and our upper plate, and we've tried to just wiggle around angling at 45 degrees, and we've just kept our gun singing, and we've tried to get as many shells in as possible. And there you can see that 0.34 accuracy still does work even at sort of mid to long distances. We've had a very good round, as that Jagdpanzer E100 punishes us for pushing, but we made those plays in the middle of the map, took the attention away from the rest of our team, and we helped our team take that game down. So we finish with 2 kills, 7.1k direct damage, 465 assistance, 1310 base experience points, finish in 2nd place, so not too bad, and making nice 126,000 silver profit, blocking 1930 damage. So I hope you've seen how effective playing this assault tank destroyer mode is, using these tanks' armor, using the mobility of these tanks, and also using the hit points and just pushing forward. So thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed both of these games in the Object 263 and 268 version 4. Until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.